morning. Welcome to the program. The talk continues right here on the Morning Scramble. I am Tanya Mock, coming to you from the home of the Central Arizona Railroad Club. We will be speaking about that later in the program. First, we're going to be talking about how to get your kids' sleep habits back on track for school. Now, if your child spent the summer staying up late and sleeping in, don't wait until the first week of school to pull out that alarm clock, because if you do, you will be in big trouble. Dr. Robert Rosenberg here. Sleep medicine is his forte, and that is his specialty, and we're going to talk about how to get our children back on track. Again, that sentence says a lot. Start gradually getting your children back into the habit.
Correctly.
Okay.
I would say over a 2-week period, try to advance their wake time and their sleep time by anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes until you hit your target time. And how you figure your target time is, if they have to be up for school at 6 o'clock in the morning and they're 8 years old, they should be getting about 11 hours of sleep. If they're 14 or 15, they should be getting 9 hours of sleep. And that's how you can figure out what time they should be going to bed and what time they should be waking up. And the other important thing is, in addition to gently nudging them back, make sure they get plenty of sunlight in the morning. That will really help reset their circadian cycle.
Oh, like that, yes. Sleep medicine, of course, is your forte. You have 2 clinics, one in Prescott Valley and one in Flagstaff. Sleep is so very important to our well-being.
It is, and especially with children. Children going back to school with only 6 to 7 hours of sleep because they're maintaining, let's say, an 11 o'clock till 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, because they were going to bed at 11 o'clock in the summertime. They're irritable, they have trouble concentrating, they have behavioral problems, and many schools are now moving to increase the school time, starting time, and push it an hour back. And those children are doing better on tests.
Children
in other words, they can start to get more sleep. So there are a lot of school districts, Kentucky, many in Colorado.
I always said the school started too early for young children.
Agree.
I have said that all my life.
And the studies now are coming out showing that's true, because the school, even the inner city schools that have adopted this in some of the areas of Detroit, and then the more affluent suburban that began this move, are showing a lower dropout rate. They're showing better test scores, better SATs, and less acting out in oppositional defiant behavior in the classroom.
I love that. I didn't know that was happening.
Yes.
That is great news. Now, weekends, of course, weekends when school is in session, we should stay on the same program?
Yes, don't budge. In other words, if you've got your child a week or 2 before school back into a regular sleep-wake schedule that coincides with school, don't budge on the weekends, because that'll throw the circadian clock right back off again, and then the child will have difficulty waking up when school
I always liked Friday and Saturday night rolling around, and then I could stay up a little later.
Well, some kids can do it, some can't. The other thing is napping. Start weaning them off naps. A lot of kids take naps in the summertime. They're not going to get any naps on a school day, and the nap will cut into their ability to fall asleep that night.
Exactly, that's
So if you got to be up at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, I mean, not 9 o'clock, you have to get to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and you're taking a nap at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, that child's going to have a much harder time getting to sleep at 8 or 9 o'clock.
I would imagine this would be true, to create a relaxing ambiance around bedtime, no physical activity running close to bedtime.
Yeah, very important. Don't want to get the core body temperature up with roughhousing.
So what does that do? Prohibit them going to sleep?
Yes. The reason, one of the main signals we have to fall asleep is when melatonin is released, which is the sleep hormone. It also causes a drop in core body temperature that continues to drop all night long till about 4 o'clock in the morning. So if you're vigorous and your body temperature, your core body temperature has risen because of exercise, and you can't turn that off very easily, that'll delay their ability to fall asleep. That and the most dangerous thing of all for sleep is blue light. You've got to get the video games, you've got to get the television, and you've got to get the computers and iPads out.
Really? What does that do?
Blue light is absolutely the worst type of light. It's common to all the iPads, the computers.
Well, then why do we use it?
Because we're only now becoming aware of it. I just wrote a blog on blue light pollution, and in researching for it, I was amazed to find the studies that showed how severely blue light disrupts sleep.
Interesting.
Very much.
No, but I always thought blue light was like it would be cooling if
Blue light, your LED lights are actually blue light, and the bulbs are coated with phosphorus to make it look white. Your CFLs that the government is now mandating. They have much more blue light than the incandescent lights had, and that's why many people are advocating getting them out of your bedroom.
Doctor,
the best light is red light.
Doctor, it seems like every day something is released, we see another article, information becomes apparent to us how we are polluting in every form
Absolutely.
of our existence today.
We are.
From light to food to
and
exercise.
People are totally unaware of it. They're told this is great, you know, you can read by an LED light. Well, you can read by an LED light, but even if you do, you're probably going to fall asleep an hour or two later, have trouble sleeping. The time for LED lights and bright lights is in the morning or no closer than 2 hours to bedtime, which is when I tell parents to shut down the iPhone, shut down the texting, and obviously take
But now why is it when I spend a lot of time in front of the computer, internet, and sometimes I do, you know, I have my heels dug in, but I must for my research, you get very sleepy and lethargic.
Most people don't.
Most people don't?
No, most people become very wide awake, and
Really?
they're also stimulated by the internet. And then they have see, you don't have insomnia. My patients who have trouble falling asleep, there's two choices. I tell them either turn the blue light computers and devices off, or go out and buy yourself what's called blue blocker sunglasses, and those are now available. So people who have for business purposes must work late on the computer, if you wear blue blocker sunglasses, you will block out the blue light and you will find it much easier to fall asleep, and those studies were recently published as well.
Interesting. Getting children to wake up, you mentioned exposed to sunlight as soon as
they wake up in the morning.
Open the drapes.
Open the drapes. I advocate open the drapes after they fall asleep, so that the sunlight comes in. The other thing is there are now alarm clocks called dawn simulators, and they begin to, 30 minutes or 15 minutes before the child wakes up or you wake up, they begin to emit light into the room that's not quite as strong as sunlight, but about 50% as strong as sunlight. And that's a gentle way to wake up, because we believe some of that light actually can penetrate the closed eye.
Talking about snacks and foods and information like that, what should you allow them to have for dinner, for a snack, a light snack later? Again, not a heavy meal before they go to sleep.
What we want to do is mix, as far as snacks, we want to mix something that has a lot of tryptophan, which is an amino acid that gets converted into melatonin.
Turkey. Have
right.
turkey
but
every
guess
night.
what?
I've got it.
Milk, yogurt, and bananas contain as much tryptophan as does turkey.
Oh, okay.
And so if you combine the tryptophan with some complex carbohydrates, the tryptophan will get into the brain more easily. Insulin is necessary to get tryptophan into the brain. Once that happens, it gets converted to melatonin, and your ability to fall asleep is much easier. If you give the main thing is don't give them any caffeinated beverages of any type.
Or sugar, I would imagine.
Or sugar high, because the sugar high causes a release of cortisol later in the night and wakes them up.
They're off on a high.
You're right.
And that is hard to manage sometimes. Now, we're talking about children, of course, obviously getting on schedule back to school. But what we're talking about does apply to adults also.
Yes.
Much of what we're saying here.
And it's important that the parent also rearrange their sleep-wake schedule if they've drifted to a later schedule, because they probably need to be up an hour earlier to take care of the child and get them ready.
Exactly.
So you need to do that too, and that also sets a role model for the child. And you don't want to be getting up with 5 minutes to get into the kid's room. You feel harried, you feel hurried, you're stressed, you're edgy. That's not good. So in preparation for the school year, the parents should also find a way to get up at least 1 hour earlier than they had been and go to bed 1 hour earlier.
I love the later time for school to start. I wish they had done that when I was in school. I just used to dread that early hour. Doctor, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.